Welcome to the deep dive. We're here today really wrestling with something I think a lot of high achievers bump up against. It's this question, right? Why do some incredibly talented, educated, super disciplined people, they just hit a wall?
Yeah, they plateau. Or worse, they just don't get that breakthrough.
Exactly. While others, maybe with similar credentials, maybe even less on paper, they seem to catch this wave. The sources we looked at call it supernatural momentum.
It's that moment the standard formula just fails, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Talent plus education plus effort. It works often, but it doesn't always guarantee that next level.
Right. It feels incomplete.
And that's exactly what the source material for this deep dive argues, that the usual success equation, it's missing a really critical variable.
Something outside the usual performance reviews and, ticking all the boxes.
Totally outside that realm, something professionals often overlook or maybe even dismiss.
We all know that pressure, though. The hustle culture, just do more, work harder.
Oh, yeah.
But when you really look at those stories, the ones where someone's life just shifts, like instantly, sheer effort doesn't seem to explain how that door flew open.
Precisely. And the documents we reviewed name that missing ingredient. It's favor.
Favor, okay.
And not just, good luck or being well-liked. They're talking specifically about divine favor.
Divine favor, okay, that's a big concept.
It is. And it's presented as the catalyst,
Hmm.
the thing that transforms all that hard work, that potential, into actualized purpose, sometimes really fast.
So our mission today is to really unpack this. What is this favor? How does it supposedly work?
That's the plan. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because look, high achievers, they're critical thinkers, right? They hear favor. And the first thought is probably, okay, isn't this just a fancy word for great networking? Or, high EQ, maybe even just good old-fashioned privilege.
That's the immediate logical question, and the sources are ready for it.
How do they distinguish it, especially when they bring in these theological terms like chen in Hebrew, charis in Greek, this idea of unearned goodwill? How is that different from just being charming or lucky?
Right. That's the core distinction they make. Luck, random, temporary, impersonal. You can't count on it.
Okay.
Favor, as described here, is relational. It's sustainable. And fundamentally, yes, it's unearned, but, and this is key, it seems to be activated.
Activated, how so?
Well, think about it. High EQ, networking. Those are vital human inputs. Absolutely, you need those. But favor is presented as the unearned space that allows those inputs to produce disproportionate outputs.
Oh.
It's defined as this benevolent acceptance or goodwill from God towards a person, which then seems to create this gravitational pull on things like influence, timing, resources.
So it's like the multiplier effect. You can build a network, hustle hard, but favor is what might cause, say, the most influential person in that network to suddenly champion you, even when you're not around.
Exactly that. It creates, and I'm quoting loosely here, an unearned space where doors open, resources appear, timing tilts, and influence grows. And often, it happens in ways you just can't explain logically based on the resume alone.
Right, which flies in the face of the hustle harder mantra.
Completely.
Mhm.
The sources argue pretty strongly that skill without favor,
Mm-hmm.
it just leads to exhaustion, not elevation. You can grind away, but
Yeah.
you're fighting gravity. Favor, they suggest, provides the lift.
I do appreciate the clarification, though, that it's not about being passive. It's not an excuse to sit back.
Not at all. The source material really hammers this point. Preparation has to meet divine timing. It's framed as a partnership.
A partnership, okay.
A rigorous one, actually. You still have to build the ship, right?
Yeah.
Discipline, competence, character, those are non-negotiable.
Sure.
But favors like the wind. Reliable, strategic, filling the sails, and taking you somewhere your own rowing, no matter how hard, just couldn't reach.
Okay, to make this less, well, abstract, we need an example.
Yeah.
And the sources really lean into one major archetype, Joseph.
Ah, yes. Joseph's story is almost the definition of what they call discontinuous promotion.
He's the perfect case study, isn't he? Because by all rights, his inputs should have led to total failure.
Absolutely. He was smart, capable, ethical, a brilliant manager, even as a young man. But what happens? Betrayal, slavery, years hidden away in prison. Talk about stalled potential.
He should have been a footnote, forgotten.
Right. Then comes that moment.
Yeah, the leap. From a prison cell to Pharaoh's palace, second in command of Egypt, the superpower of its day, practically overnight.
It wasn't a climb up the ladder. It was like teleportation.
That's the discontinuous part. It breaks the expected sequence.
Exactly. Think about a modern equivalent. Maybe someone brilliant, but stuck in a junior role. Suddenly plucked out, skipping 3 management layers. not because of a merger or some predictable rotation.
But because maybe a key investor or some high-level figure specifically asks for them, perhaps having seen their character under pressure.
Precisely. Joseph was ready. He'd practiced excellent stewardship, even in the smallest, most thankless roles. Potiphar's house, the prison.
He built his skills, his integrity.
Yes, but the skill alone, the integrity alone, they didn't engineer that one specific moment of alignment, that perfect convergence of crisis, opportunity, and visibility.
So the skill and character were like the ticket. You needed that to even be considered.
An analogy.
But favor was the express train that just blew past all the local stops.
Absolutely. Favor amplified his existing strengths. It aligned him with the opportunity, the timing, the influence in a way that no amount of personal effort from inside a prison could possibly manufacture.
And it wasn't just Joseph, right? The sources point to other patterns.
They do. Daniel's another key example. Highly skilled, disciplined, educated. But the text explicitly says God gives him knowledge and understanding and favor with his superiors.
The favor is an added ingredient.
Seems to be. And Esther. Her courage and preparation were crucial, but it was gaining favor with the king at that critical moment that enabled her to act and save her people.
So the pattern holds. Competence is essential, but favor provides the opening, the critical opportunity.
That's the argument. Favor supplies the opening that skill alone can't guarantee.
Okay, that leads us logically to the mechanics. If this favor thing is real and impacts careers, how does it actually work? How does it interact with what we do with our agency?
Right. It sounds like, well, the sources suggest it's like a braided cord. Effort and grace, constantly woven together.
Not opposites.
Not opposites at all. Partners. And the first mechanism they highlight is that favor often flows through human conduits.
Human conduits, so people.
People. I tend to think of favor, especially divine favor, as this purely vertical thing, right? Straight down from above.
Yeah.
But the sources suggest it's often horizontal. It works through other people, mentors, sponsors, advocates, even unexpected helpers.
Okay, but how does that actually play out? Because again, the skeptic, the high achiever, hears that and thinks, okay, human conduits. Isn't that just networking? Having friends in high places?
It's a fair challenge.
How is favor working through people different from just being well-connected or having high emotional intelligence?
That's the crucial distinction the sources try to make.
Yeah.
And it often comes down to integrity and risk.
Okay. Explain that.
Look at Joseph again. In those low points, Potiphar's house, the prison, he didn't just do the job. He demonstrated meticulous excellence, ethical reliability, trustworthiness, even when no one important was supposedly watching.
He built reputational capital, not just contact.
Exactly. Think about it. When Potiphar or the jailer put him in charge, they were taking a huge risk. He was a slave and a prisoner accused of a serious crime.
Right, big risk for them.
But his demonstrated integrity, his character, lowered their perceived risk. Favor, in the sense, leverages your character.
Yeah.
It makes influential people, the conduits, feel safe, even compelled to intercede for you. They might make introductions, give recommendations, or take chances on you that your current title or experience wouldn't normally justify, because they trust your character.
So integrity acts like a magnet for favor, because it assures potential sponsors that you won't misuse the opportunity, that you're trustworthy.
Precisely stated. And that trust factor connects directly to the second mechanism, timing and providence.
Okay, providence. The right place, right time phenomenon.
We often dismiss that as sheer luck, but the sources suggest it's frequently the result of this providential favor, meeting careful human preparation.
Like Joseph again. The famine was coming, Pharaoh had those dreams. That was the crisis.
Right. Joseph didn't cause the crisis, but his decade plus of diligent preparation, of honing his skills and maintaining his integrity even in the pit. It meant that when the specific moment of need arrived, he was basically the only one ready.
The timing converged. His preparation met the specific, unpredictable need.
And that convergence, that alignment, potentially leads to that supernatural acceleration we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Skipping the usual steps, because the need and the prepared person meet perfectly.
This sounds very holistic. You can't really separate the professional success from the moral foundation, the character underneath.
That's absolutely central to the argument in the sources. Favor is presented as holistic, things like integrity, humility, ethical behavior. They aren't just nice-to-haves. They actually create the fertile soil where favor, both relational and divine, can take root and flourish.
Which is why they contrast those two types of leaders,
Mm,
the grinder and the conductor.
exactly. It's a useful contrast.
Can you lay those out for us quickly?
Sure. The grinder. That's the leader operating purely on ambition, willpower, discipline. They achieve a lot, no doubt. High results,
Uh,
but they often battle burnout. They feel they have to control everything, force every outcome. They rely entirely on their own strength, and that's finite.
Okay. And the conductor.
The conductor is just as diligent, just as disciplined. But they operate with a sense of dependence, of alignment. They're trying to work in rhythm with something larger.
So they work hard, but they're also looking for those doors that seem to open more effortlessly.
You could say that. They prioritize connection to purpose, to values, maybe to the source of favor itself over just sheer frantic activity. They build the ship, but they're also watching for the wind.
Okay. So if the goal is to move from being purely a grinder towards being more of a conductor, how do you do that? The sources actually offer practical steps, right?
Surprisingly practical, yes.
Yeah.
The fundamental shift, the big paradigm change, is moving your core mindset from I must do more to I must align better.
Align better. Okay. What's the first principle for that alignment?
Stewardship multiplies favor. Goes back to Joseph. Whether he was managing Potiphar's household accounts or organizing the prison rations, he treated every task with meticulous excellence.
Even the small stuff, the stuff nobody sees.
Especially that stuff. You treat every task, no matter how small or seemingly menial, as a chance to demonstrate reliability, integrity, excellence. It proves you can be trusted with little things.
And the idea is that's the prerequisite for favor entrusting you with bigger things.
That's the principle. Demonstrate faithful stewardship where you are, and it positions you for greater responsibility and opportunity when favor opens a door.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second principle gets back to that moral soil idea. Humility opens channels.
Absolutely critical, especially for activating those human conduits we talked about.
How so?
Well, the sources often quote scripture here, like God opposes the proud, but gives grace or favor to the humble. Pride, essentially, slams the door shut on grace.
And practically in a leadership context.
The actionable steps are things highly relevant today. Actively seek out critical feedback. Don't just wait for the annual review. Acknowledge your own limits publicly. And consistently, genuinely give credit to others.
Why does humility work like that relationally?
Think about it from the perspective of a potential mentor or sponsor. Are you more likely to champion someone who's arrogant, takes all the credit, and thinks they know everything?
Probably not. Too much ego risk.
Exactly. Or are you more likely to endorse and promote someone you know will share the success, remain teachable, listen to advice, and won't let the promotion go to their head? Humility reduces the perceived risk for your advocates.
So humility isn't just a virtue, it's actually a strategic mechanism for unlocking trust and therefore the flow of relational favor.
Well put. And since favor flows through relationships, that leads directly to the third principle. Community is a conduit.
Meaning?
Invest in your relationships, but sacrificially, not just transactionally. Don't just network for what you can get. Serve others, help others, mentor others, without expecting an immediate tit-for-tat return.
Generosity, basically.
Generosity unlocks reciprocal favor, often in unexpected ways. The sources are clear. The mentors you pour into, the colleagues you help, the community you serve, they often become the very channels through which favor flows back to you.
Maybe through a timely warning, a crucial introduction, a piece of advice.
Exactly. Things you would never have received otherwise. That come precisely because you invested relationally, not just transactionally.
Okay, so those three principles, stewardship, humility, community, help you adopt what you called a favor-ready lifestyle. Can you give us those three concise, strategic habits the source material recommends we could, actually do?
Sure. They're quite focused. First, daily. Just start the day with maybe 5 or 10 minutes focused on dependence and gratitude. Consciously align your agenda. Acknowledge your limits before you dive into chasing outcomes.
Okay, a daily alignment check-in.
Second, weekly. Practice some kind of Sabbath rhythm. Regular rest isn't just about avoiding burnout. The sources suggest it protects your moral clarity. Overwork doesn't just make you tired. It can corrode the very character needed to attract and sustain favor.
Rest as a strategic practice. Interesting. And third, strategic. Two parts here. Implement a conscious generosity plan. Regularly give time, talent, or treasure. And leverage pause and prayer in your actual strategy sessions. Before launching that big project, before making that major decision, intentionally pause Seek wisdom, seek alignment. Don't just rush ahead on your own steam.
Okay, daily dependence, weekly rest, strategic generosity, and pause.
Yeah.
Those are concrete.
Aim to be.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. If you're listening to this right now, maybe take a second. Think about your top 3 professional strengths, the things you're already good at, disciplined in.
Yeah.
Now, just consider the possibility the sources raise. What might happen if favor, this divine multiplier, was genuinely activated in those specific areas where you already have competence?
That question really shifts the perspective, doesn't it?
It does. It stops being just about how can I push harder and starts being about how can my existing strengths be amplified, partnered with. You stop seeing your career as solely a product of your own grinding effort and maybe start seeing it as potentially a story written in partnership with a larger purpose, a larger power.
So bringing this all together as we wrap up, what's the final synthesis, the core takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the core truth that emerged from the source material is this. Your talent, your competence, your hard work, they absolutely open doors. They get you in the game.
Necessary.
Necessary, but maybe not sufficient for breakthrough. Favor, as described here, is what unlocks rooms you didn't even know existed. It creates opportunities beyond what your qualifications alone could secure.
But it's not magic. It meets something.
Exactly. Favor most often meets preparation, humility, and faithful stewardship. It's definitely not an endorsement of laziness or passivity. The sources frame the ideal, perhaps the Christian vocation, specifically as this combination. Prepare excellently, act responsibly, and pray dependently.
That combination.
That combination seems to be the sweet spot where this supernatural acceleration can actually happen.
That really helps frame it. It gives structure to something that could feel kind of mystical otherwise.
Okay, for the final thought, that analogy the source used was brilliant. The ship in the wind.
Right. Your effort builds the ship. All the hard work, the skills, the discipline that's building a seaworthy vessel.
But favor is the divine hand that takes your sharpened tool and uses it to build something you could never have built on your own. Or maybe fills the sails you so carefully crafted.
Yeah, fills the sails is maybe even better. So the question to leave you with, to really mull over today, is this.
What structures are you building right now?
In terms of your character, your competence, your community investment, what are you building today?
To ensure that when that providential wind of favor does arrive, maybe unexpectedly your ship isn't just sitting in dry dock.
Exactly. Is your ship sound? Is it ready? Is it positioned to actually catch that wind and set sail? Not just for your own benefit, but to steward that opportunity for the good of others, too.
A lot to think about there. Powerful stuff.